it's hard, and I did miss out on talking about my niece, Lori Knowles. She made a 911 call in Henry County in July. She needed help. She expected an ambulance to show up. Instead, the police showed up. I'm not sure what happened. I have not been given the proper information to determine what happened. She ends up with a bullet in her chest. She's no longer with us. Again, a situation. There's got to be a better way for police to deal with these type of 911 calls. Let's figure it out, folks. Let's stop the killing. Thanks.
One reason why many of these killings are happening in many dangerous situations for both civilians and law enforcement are no-knock warrants. The warrant at issue here was not a no-knock warrant. It was a knock-and-announce warrant. However, we're seeing that knock-and-announce warrants are now being served as if they are no-knock warrants, in contravention of the Fourth Amendment to the Constitution that guarantees us the right to be secure in our own homes against unreasonable search and seizure. We have next to speak to you Representative Sam Moore from Cherokee County, who introduced a bill in this year's legislative session that would have ended no-knock warrants. And yet, unfortunately, it did not receive the attention that it needed and was smeared by leadership in the State House. He's going to tell us about his legislative efforts and what all of us can do to agitate for change at the legislative level. Because this isn't all about the cops or even all about the judges or the prosecutors. This is an issue for our politicians and legislators to deal with, and we thank Representative Moore for his courage in speaking out.
Catherine Johnson, the Georgia resident, was murdered as a result of a no-knock raid. This raid forced law enforcement to put evidence gathering before human life. She was a 92-year-old grandmother who lived by herself. No evidence was found at that raid. Earlier this year, a Georgia toddler was hit by a grenade as a result of a no-knock raid. This raid again forced law enforcement to put evidence gathering above human life. That toddler will be scarred for life, and his family is crippled by almost $1 million in hospital bills. No evidence was found during this raid. David Hooks, a Georgia resident, was recently murdered as a result of a no-knock raid. This raid again forced law enforcement to put evidence gathering above human life. He was a 59-year-old grandfather, multiple business owner, and a model citizen. He was a pillar of the community, but no evidence was found in this raid. My name is Sam Moore. I'm a Georgia State House representative. Earlier this year, I introduced a bill that would end no-knock raids in the state of Georgia. It was ignored by the Georgia State House and ridiculed by those who put evidence gathering above human life. But before I go into that, let me explain what a no-knock raid is. A no-knock raid is when a government-sanctioned agent violently breaks into your home to simply search for some illegal object. This violent break-in occurs without a warning for you and your family. It is oftentimes done at night when you and your family are asleep. This violent break-in often starts with breaking a window or a door in your own family's home. Then a grenade is tossed into your home. This grenade is designed to stun and blind you and your family members, American citizens. It's also hot enough to start a fire in your home with you and your family in it. This grenade is followed by multiple officers in military gear entering your home, sometimes from multiple entry points. These officers will rightly be scared for their own lives. And because of that, they'll have their guns drawn and be pointing those guns at you and your family. If you have a dog that barks at intruders, then that dog will likely be shot, possibly right in front of you and your family. You and your family will be physically corralled at gunpoint into some common room in whatever state of dress you happen to be in at the time. You'll be forced to sit in handcuffs as officers in military clothing and gear point guns at you, shouting orders at you. While your family cries on the floor of your broken into home, those officers can then finally look for those inanimate objects that they were looking for. After their search is complete, it's up to you to clean up the mess. Repair the door, repair the broken glass, and air out the grenade smoke residue. You're also left to deal with an immediate and permanent distrust of law enforcement. You're left to deal with immediate and permanent distrust of government. You're left to deal with constant nightmares and the constant nightmares of your family. You'll have to deal with the fear that it can happen again. You'll have to deal with the humility of having your home invaded by a group that will claim immunity if you attempt to seek legal justice. That's the best case scenario for a no-knock raid. That's how they're supposed to work. This is how a no-knock raid works if procedures followed and if everybody does what they're expected. But when they don't work as planned, the situation can quickly result in the death of you, your family, or a law enforcement officer. This is the reason that we have the Fourth Amendment. It allows for reasonable searches and seizures under a proper warrant. Now, let me explain what a search warrant that follows the Fourth Amendment does. It's the same situation, except that officers approach the house with a warrant, as in both cases. They knock on the front door. They announce themselves as law enforcement. They state their purpose for being there. No physical damage to your house occurs. Your family's given a reasonable amount of time to answer the door. You're able to collect your thoughts. You're allowed to make rational decisions. You open the door, you permit the officers to search according to the warrant, and that's it. They still get to look for their inanimate objects, except now your family's not shattered, threatened, and your property's not destroyed. The difference between a Fourth Amendment raid and a no-knock raid is important. One, again, forces law enforcement to put evidence gathering above human life. The other puts human life above evidence gathering. What evidence is worth a human life? Back to the State House and my bill to end no-knock raids. My bill 1046 and similar bills to end no-knock raids have been ignored because the politicians at the Gold Dome have put evidence gathering above human life. Blood is on their hands. We must get them to see this. We must get them to act on it. We must not stand for no-knock raids. For as long as we stand for no-knock raids, innocent people will die. Innocent lives will be shattered. Innocent law enforcement officials will be put into more situations that will result in intentional murder. Today we come together to say we will no longer stand for this. Our country was never meant to legalize war tactics against our own citizens. If we want to end the practice of no-knock raids, we must insist that our state removes the ability of no-knock raids to be issued in the state of Georgia. If we want to end the practice of officers violently breaking into a home and destroying life and property, we must insist that our state removes legal immunity to those who perform no-knock raids. If we want to prevent citizens from unknowingly drawing a gun against a law enforcement officer, we must end no-knock raids. If you want to save more innocent lives, we must end no-knock raids. Contact your state house rep, your state senator, your elected sheriff, your elected judges. Tell them that you will no longer stand for no-knock raids. Tell them if they want your vote on November 6th, they must also fight against no-knock raids. Thank you.